When the Second World War erupted in 1939, no one could have imagined that it would end with the birth of a force capable of reshaping civilization itself. What began as a global conflict of tanks, rifles, and air raids would close with a weapon so powerful that it could erase entire cities in seconds. This was the dawn of the nuclear age, the first and only time in history that atomic bombs were used in warfare. The story begins with a race, not just for victory but for scientific dominance. As the Axis powers surged across Europe and the Pacific, a group of scientists and military strategists in the United States feared what would happen if Nazi Germany developed an atomic bomb first. The result was the Manhattan Project, a secret program that brought together some of the greatest scientific minds of the era: Einstein's theories, Fermi's experiments, Oppenheimer's leadership. Hidden across laboratories in Los Alamos, Oak Ridge, and Hanford, they worked in absolute secrecy to unlock the destructive energy trapped inside the atom. By 1945, the impossible had become reality. The first nuclear device, codenamed Trinity, was detonated in the New Mexico desert on July 16. The blast was unlike anything the world had ever witnessed. Scientists watching from bunkers miles away saw the desert floor erupt into blinding light, a fireball brighter than the sun, and then a massive mushroom cloud climbing into the sky. One physicist whispered words that would echo through history: "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The test had succeeded. The atomic bomb worked. In a fraction of a second, temperatures soared to over 1,000,000 degrees Celsius. A blinding flash vaporized buildings, streets, and tens of thousands of lives instantly. Hiroshima, once a bustling industrial city, was reduced to ashes. 3 days later, on August 9th, a second bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. The destruction was equally catastrophic. Hills were flattened, rivers boiled, and thousands more perished from burns, radiation, and collapsing buildings. In total, the two bombings killed an estimated 200,000 people, many of them civilians. Japan, facing unimaginable devastation, surrendered within days. The Second World War was over, but humanity had crossed a line it could never uncross. For the soldiers and civilians who witnessed the aftermath, there were really no words strong enough to describe what they saw. Shadows of people were burned into concrete walls, metal melted like wax. Survivors, known later as hibakusha, suffered lifelong effects from radiation, illness, scarring, and trauma that extended through generations. The war had ended, but the moral questions had only begun. The atomic bomb was not just another weapon, it was a revelation, a demonstration that human ingenuity could now destroy on a godlike scale. It changed warfare, politics, and science forever. Overnight, nations began to measure power not by armies, but by warheads. The balance of the world shifted, birthing a new kind of tension, the Cold War, where the threat of nuclear annihilation hung over humanity like a shadow. And yet, it's important to remember the perspective of those who made the decision. To the Allied command, the bomb represented a grim necessity, a way to end the war quickly and avoid what could have been millions of additional deaths in a ground invasion of Japan. To the scientists, it was a mixture of pride and horror. They had achieved what once seemed impossible, but in doing so, unleashed something far beyond their control. In the decades that followed, nuclear weapons multiplied. The Soviet Union developed its own bomb by 1949, followed by Britain, France, and others. Tests turned deserts, islands, and oceans into proving grounds. The same technology that devastated Hiroshima would also drive energy reactors, space exploration, and medical advances. But, the shadow of its first use would never fade. The first use of nuclear weapons in history marked both an end and a beginning, the end of World War II, and the beginning of the atomic age. It forced humanity to confront its own capacity for creation and destruction. Every treaty, Every peace summit, every warning about proliferation traces back to those 2 days in August 1945, when cities became test sites for the most powerful weapon ever built. Today, the story of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is told not only in museums and memorials, but, honestly, in the very philosophy of modern survival. It reminds us that intelligence without restraint can become its own enemy, that power demands conscience, and that the line between defense and destruction can vanish in the blink of an eye. The bomb ended a world war, but it also began a global awakening, one that still challenges us to balance invention with humanity and progress with wisdom.